And of course, we do not believe that we do not think that in spite of all our planning and organizing, we do not think that the games will be as successful as we would like it to be without the support of the Royal Grenada Police Force. As Superintendent Corbin said, last year we formed a relationship that was really great, and together as an association with the police force, we did pull off what quite a number of persons did not think we could have achieved. And we are assured this year again of the police full presence and support. So once again, thank you very much, Superintendent Corbin. All right, at this time, we are going to go into questions and answers. And of course, your questions should be directed to the panel. Yes, so the floor is open for questions.
Mr. Jeremiah, thanks. Question, thank you. We have had the stadium before, and it remained at 2 days. We have the stadium this time. Why still 2 days? What are the challenges?
Good question. I don't think there are any challenges necessarily, but I think we made a decision. Coming from Progress Park last year, we were a little uncertain about CONCACAF and what was going to happen to CONCACAF. Because initially, the plan was to have 3 days. We thought this year was the year we were really going to launch into the 3 days. And because of the uncertainty of CONCACAF, we decided to consolidate for 2 days this year. But definitely going forward, the plan is to have a 3-day event. As a matter of fact, you can see, just looking at the schedule of events, how tight things are already. And next year we are thinking about the field events for the prep division, because that has come up. And of course, the hurdles, we want to have the full schedule of the hurdles for next year. And there are some other events that we are looking at. So to answer the question in a few words, 3 days are definitely in the making for the years to come.
Okay. In the spirit of competition, and I noticed it remains inter-call championships and not inter-secondary schools championships. Therefore, my question is, when will we be able to see athletes, probably from the T.A. Marshall Community College, who are 16 years, 17 years, competing at the inter-call championships?
Well, this is a matter that has come up.
I remember I said inter-call, not inter-secondary school.
I understand.
Yeah.
That is a matter that has come up as part of a discussion with the principals of secondary schools already.
Oh.
And even recently when we met at the Games Association, and the matter came up again. I think it's something that we're going to have to look at, because there are lots of students who are leaving secondary schools, particularly the girls, who are going into TAMCC and are losing the enthusiasm for track and field. And I think if we are going to prepare our students to be more competitive, particularly at the character level, there has to be something happening somewhere that would encourage them to continue their training regimen, so that when the time comes for things like national champs and so on, they can participate. Even at the intercol level, they can participate and sustain their readiness for regional and international competition.
Yeah. Isn't it ironic that they are not allowed to compete, but yet fall the comprise of the secondary school team for the Windward Island School Games?
Well, I mean, the question that you're asking are great questions.
And the principals are here, yeah.
I have been thinking, particularly about the girls in particular. I've been thinking about them and what is it that Intercol can do to get more participation. And I'm stressing on the female here because it's difficult to watch outstanding athletes going from the secondary level and just disappearing and not hearing anything. So the long and short is that this is not a closed conversation. We will continue to talk about it and seek advice as to how we maybe can integrate non-secondary school athletes maybe into the intercol. It's a ticklish thing for some people, but there is an openness to talking about it and seeing if something will.
At the conclusion of this meeting, can we definitely see that all of the secondary schools will be taking part at Intercol 2016? I see this in regards at least Friday, at least one school was reviewing the participation in this year's games.
Yeah.
We all know the reason why.
Well, I'm going to get to the reason because I want to settle the issue once and for all. As far as I know, there hasn't been any principal sitting around the table here, or those who are not here, who have indicated to the organizers that they are not going to be participating in Intercol 2016. Okay, I have strong confidence that all the principals, all the secondary schools are going to be participating. And the issue maybe that you are pointing to has to do with the point system. And let me tell you, we just had a lengthy discussion here because that matter has been put to rest. In November, the Principals Association met and we set up a subcommittee comprising of two reputed technical persons in Ms. Williams and Mr. Joe Alexander to discuss and review the point system as it stood then, and together in collaboration with the principals and the MIT director, we met in January. We studied all the point system from Trinidad, Barbados, Antigua, Boys and Girls Champion Jamaica, and it was very clear to us that some of the issues that some persons were raising were in a sense non-issues because the point system was almost exactly like the one that we instituted a few years ago. So as of today, that matter is closed until further notice. We don't want to hear anything about point system again because that is a non-issue. And it has been ratified here at the Principals Association meeting, and all secondary schools in Grenada, Carriacou, and Pitimati will be participating in Intercol 2016.
I'm aware that you're the team manager of the Carriacou Games this year as well as one of the coaches. Is there a concern that at Intercol this year, which is basically about a week before the Carriacou Games, that we may not have the best of performances from some of the top athletes due to fear of injury? Is there a concern?
Seems as though you came prepared with all good questions. Good question, because you see, even when the news about CONCACAF was announced, we had a concern because originally we wanted to have Intercol in early March, so as to give sufficient time to the athletes. As a matter of fact, that was a concern that was shared by the president of the GAA, Mr. Charlie George, and we spoke about that at length. But the principals, we had even gone ahead and set a date. That was supposed to be sometime around the 10th of March, to give sufficient buffer time for athletes who are participating in Intercol, who are also going to participate at Carriacou, would have sufficient time to recuperate. It's a concern, but given the tight sports calendar that we are working with CONCACAF this week and next week, Intercol the following week, then Carriacou, I suppose we didn't have a choice. We had to resort to the 17th, the 8th, 16th and 17th to host our games. We would have preferred to do it earlier, but because of the circumstances surrounding CONCACAF, it was not possible to do.
Are dates organized for 2017 already in terms of full planning?
Not yet, but you're giving me an idea that we probably should start thinking about setting the dates, so that we do not have any conflict of interest next year. Because you notice 2 years in a row we have been Intercol has been affected because of other national sporting events.
You know, security has always been a major issue and concern, not just for the schools but parents as well. What assurances can you give that, I mean, I notice you from, you know, the hierarchy of the force in particular, but even the ordinary police officers will be able to carry out such instruction in terms of the street, ensuring that the students and the athletes return home safely?
But we have no guarantee that students and athletes will return home safely. The guarantee that we give is that while they're at the games and in St. George's, we will ensure that nothing negative happens. Once you get on a bus, it's the bus to take you home safely, and we're not on that bus. So from the perspective of the stadium and St. George's, we are going to do all what we have done in the past this year to ensure that safety and security is paramount for us. Let me just extend that by saying, at the stadium in particular, we normally have some police officers who act as social workers, and we're bringing in quite a lot of these people on big events like Intercol games and CONCACAF football, etc. In the case of children like Intercol, we know that some of them perhaps will get lost. The stadium is new, and even for me it's a challenge because I've only been there twice. And I know from some students coming from the outer parishes, it will be a challenge for them in the stadium. If you lost your way, we have police officers who is assigned to ensure that we get you to the designated area that you've been assigned to. So that arrangement is already in place. If you have a challenge in working your way through the town of St. George, at the end of the games there's going to be a deployment of police officers in and around the town of St. George to give direction and guidance to students who need to find their way around. If you don't know the streets, you're going to be helped. If you don't know where to find the bus, you're going to be helped. We're going to be ensuring that the students get onto the designated bus that fly the route that they need to go. That's how much we're extending our security apparatus this year to ensure that this games is flawless.
Okay. A couple of years ago, I recall there was a trial in terms of creating a clearing area for buses to pick up the students from the stadium instead of going into the city.
Yeah, well, as I said earlier on, we are now tweaking, we are finalizing our traffic management plan. So that is not impossible, it may happen. I'm working with the personnel at the traffic department to see what's the best accommodation we can have. Instead of having the students coming to town, it might be easier to have the bus pick them up at the stadium. So that we are currently working on, and that will minimize anything negative happening in the town of St. George. It will also mitigate against them having to congregate in town either. So from the stadium, the bus gets you from the stadium, you go straight home, less hassle, less headache, and less problems in the town of St. George for law enforcement and for the school principals.
First of all, we have the main pavilion. The main pavilion is our, sophisticated, right, thank you, location where we have our VIPs and dignitaries. That pavilion, the price of entry to that pavilion is $20 for adults, and if there are any child who chooses to go to that pavilion, that child would have to pay $15. Okay, so main pavilion, $20. The bleachers, as we indicated earlier, is an area for current students in secondary school, in full school uniform and ID. That is $10. Okay. The secondary pavilion for adults, $15, and for students from TAM-CC in particular, $10. Okay. If we have to move any of our students because of overflow from the bleachers, they will go to the secondary pavilion at the same price. We do not want to turn away any school children for both days. The designated place for them to be is the National Stadium. That's where school will be taking place. So that's basically the price breakdown. I said 4 locations because the Junior Murray or Alderstown in the cricket stadium will be the athletes' village. And special accommodations have been arranged for athletes at that location, including the ability to see the sports live without missing the action in the athletic stadium. Okay? So as we go, Superintendent Corin mentioned that we will now begin the campaign of regular appearances in the media, giving information on some of the things that we have discussed here, so that the public, the students, we will go back to our schools and begin to talk to our students and to our staff. Very important that they have clear information, accurate information, so that when they arrive, they do not have a problem. So just for your information also, in the main pavilion you have 3 gates, A, B, and C. A and C are for the paying public. The VIP and the special dignitaries will only be allowed to use gate B. So, and the tickets are going to be color coded. So if you have a special color for main pavilion, you cannot use that ticket to go to the bleachers. If you have a ticket for the bleachers, you cannot use that to come to the main pavilion or the secondary pavilion. Unless you're a student, a current student in secondary school in full uniform, and special arrangements have been made for you to go over to the secondary pavilion. Okay?